Hello, welcome to the first episode of the podcast. We don't fully know what we're going to call it yet, we're just doing a little bit of a trial run introduction. I don't want this to be like a sort of LinkedIn professional podcast, so we're going to be pretty loose today. I've got Curtis and Owen here with me. Curtis is going to be asking a few questions. I feel that the perception of coaches, the fitness industry is that people are pretty dull. People are fucking arseholes. And I've been very fortunate, that's the first swear that's been dropped. I'm pretty fortunate to have met a lot of really good coaches that have got really good personalities and great backstories, and I want to bring them onto this podcast to talk fitness and their lives and just interact with them. I am a little bit wet. We've just been for Nando's and got caught in the rain before we were filming this. So first question for me, for you guys as an audience, let me know your Nando's order. I'm dieting, so I've just had a chicken wrap and the piss taken out of me for being fish and a rice cake wanker. So that's pretty much the introduction to the podcast. I essentially want to have fun with this, enjoy it, bring guests on that are entertaining, that I actually want to talk to, not just because they've got a big following or, you know, it's good for clout. It's definitely based upon having interesting, fun conversations and you guys actually enjoying it. So if you want to listen to me talking to a guest, this is not going to be that, so skip along to the next guest episode. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction of myself. Curtis here is going to ask me a few questions, give you a little bit of an insight on me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's jump in, Curtis. Okay, so I was at college and I was studying maths and IT. Absolutely hated it. I was doing a lot of boxing, martial arts at the time. I had delusions of becoming an MMA fighter. That was never going to happen. Trained with some absolute savages and realised that was not for me. And at the time I wanted a job that would give me the freedom to go and be able to do that. So I found an apprenticeship that was evening work. So I went and did that, and it was in coaching in PT. And over probably a year and a half, I realised I couldn't fight. I was getting the shit kicked out of me. And I was actually pretty good at coaching, or I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interactions and I enjoyed sort of getting to know people. So I kind of dived into that world. I then went on to another gym, kind of went self-employed because it was working. And the thing that I noticed I was missing was with the clients that weren't getting a result, I was getting really frustrated and I didn't know how to work it out. So I then went into a long journey and I actually had a really nice engagement with a client that was quite overweight at the time and he was struggling with it, and really empathised with him, and he was getting on the scales and he was getting upset and he was crying on like our weekly check-ins, and I just realised I need to help this guy. So I then went on to do extra qualifications, and when I started to see a result with him, it was really motivating for me, and I knew from that point I just wanted more of that, essentially.
If someone was to follow your journey, how would they start off on theirs?
I think I can give the generic answer. I think, and then I'll go into a bit more detail, I think staying with basics. So we all know the basics, it's just getting it to fit into your routine is what most people will hear. But I think a lot of people will go into what is now becoming fashionable of like going monk mode, cutting everything out, not enjoying it. Most people want to live in a happy body as well as a really in shape body, right? Yeah. They want to feel good, they want to look good. A lot of people miss out the feel good, like they need to keep the foods that they somewhat enjoy, they need to keep the routines that they enjoy, find exercise they enjoy. Some people don't like the gym. You don't need to force that into your routine. It might just simply be starting with extra steps and working on diet processes, not going from 0 to 100, working 0 to 1, 1 to 2, like steadily increasing their output.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So, if we were to look back at the 18-year-old Ryan, what would he be like?
I was pretty insecure. I was obviously coaching people to something that I probably didn't have much clue on, which is why I kind of went into learning more and understanding more and kind of getting coaching myself, ultimately learning from a lot of the people that I hope to have on the podcast and talk through. Like, I've been very fortunate to have good mentors and people in my space. Most importantly, probably Nathan, like, just learning to enjoy that. I think I was very unconfident. That really helped me to come out of my shell, like really getting into hard training and enjoying that and interacting with new people, and then as I've kind of gone through my journey, really improving my confidence. I think I was pretty stuck. I was trying to do anything to like not be that skinny kid that I identified as. There's still elements of that kind of creep into my mentality now, but I know that I've got the tool set to be able to work through that. So that's probably how I would describe him. If I would go back and talk to him, I'd say like, look, you've got this. Just take your time with it. And that I said, rather than going from 0 to 100, just work on slowly increasing. Because in my past, I have tried to go from 0 to 100 and ended up back at 0. Whereas if I'd steadily increased it, I'd have probably got to where I am now a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So where did beyond average come from?
So I think that this sometimes gets confused. I'm not saying that average is a bad thing. I think it's more a case of moving past your average where you've been sort of settled. A lot of what people come to me and say is like, I've plateaued, I know what I'm doing, I just can't seem to do it. And people get stuck in this sort of feeling average mentality. So I want people to move past feeling average. I'm not saying that the average person is bad or you can't be the average person. It's more a case of like feeling average. I want people to feel beyond that. I want people to feel phenomenal.
Okay. So how would you spend the perfect weekend?
I think I'm pretty relaxed. I think because my work is very condensed, bouncing between different jobs, I do like quite a relaxed weekend. Coffee is always an essential in there, as with most people. Definitely a late lie-in. I think something that I've fought with over the years is like, I've got to be up early, I've got to be doing something, got to be at it. Whereas just relaxing and enjoying a weekend and throwing in there snowboarding, like I absolutely love that. So that's like my getaway from reality. Maybe a little bit of trainer shopping if I'm feeling jazzy.
Not wrong with a nice store. So what would you, if someone was to ask what your guilty pleasure was, would you reveal a secret? And what would it be?
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure, should I say, yeah.
I don't.
Not guilty secret.
Guilty secret, yeah, we won't go into that just yet. Maybe on the 10th episode. I wouldn't say I really have a guilty pleasure. Like, anything that I want to do, I will do. I'll be pretty out there with. I know we've obviously had a conversation with you being into your music. I like cheesy hits. Like, what you think I would train to and exercise to is not the case. Probably like a bit of Spice Girls, spice up your life. Can already see you shaking your head.
Don't do this to the listeners. Never mind me.
Yeah, but they're going to agree. They might not agree publicly, like I have, but I think a lot of them will.
Okay, I feel about
Yeah. But yeah, I'll leave that to them.
Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Generally, I would say that like I do the things that I want to do. Very fortunate to work for myself, do what I want to do. I'm not too bothered about the image that people might have of me, in the sense of like that might be bad for business. So yeah, probably cheesy music. Snowboarding isn't really a guilty pleasure, but as I said, I've absolutely fallen in love with that over the last year. So I want to definitely get to the point where I can do more of that and enjoy more of that.
Yeah, that's good. Never been snowboarding, don't know if I will.
Yeah.
With the injuries that you've spoken about.
Snapped arms and broken hamstrings aren't great.
Yeah, not at my age. So, if someone was to describe, if a family member or friend was to describe the most annoying things about you, what would it be, do you think?
I can get pretty obsessive about things, like to my own detriment. So like I was doing something yesterday with emails and I can't stop. Even when I'm getting frustrated, I just keep going at stuff until like I've kind of figured out, even if it's to my own detriment. That's quite annoying. And I'm pretty like set in my ways. Like it'll take a lot for me to like change my point of view. That's something I've like worked on over the years. And I can identify in that like I'm pretty stubborn.
I think a lot of people are stubborn though. It can be a good quality.
Yeah,
especially
it can be. Yeah, it can be good and it can be bad. I think like I've held on to beliefs sometimes because I've believed them. When again, it's to my own detriment. But also when I'm like pursuing something, like getting obsessed about something is sometimes good. Like it's a double-edged sword, right? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people probably like relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the obsession, as you said, there's the obsession part where it's good to get to your goals, but then sometimes the
Yeah,
price that you pay
yeah.
for being there is
So one of my friends runs ultra marathons,
okay.
and he kind of like sensibly was getting injured pretty close to the finish line, and the way that he spoke through it was like, I'm gonna do myself long-term damage to like go through this and finish this, when I could go away, I could reset, recover from the injury, and then do it again properly.
Yeah.
Whereas my mindset in that sometimes would be like, just push through, just keep going, even when it's detrimental, which is ridiculous when you say it out loud, but sometimes like we live in our own heads and we don't speak stuff out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that I've like tried to really work on for myself.
Yeah, definitely, I understand that. So you seem pretty big on reflection. So with that said, what would you say was your biggest win of 2024?
I think going from being a gym floor PT to like going completely online, like everything was on me. Definitely a challenge, but I went into it knowing that it was going to be a challenge, and that's what I kind of wanted to take up. So getting to the end of that year and still operating really well, taking on good client numbers, seeing some really good transformations. I noticed when I was on the gym floor that like my online clients were getting probably better service. They could communicate with me more freely. They were getting more than just gym training, and I knew I wanted to do it for a while, and I was putting it off, probably sort of getting in my own way, trying to persist with the in-person stuff. But being able to do that and now having the freedom to kind of do what I want, but also having the challenge in there, that was pretty big for me. And then probably, as we spoke about, like snapped my forearm and hamstring at the start of March last year, and then lost significant amount of weight, was kind of going back to that skinny feel that I had, where I was feeling like a skinny kid again. And just to bounce back from that, pretty much bulked up to the end of December. Won't bore people with too much details on that. And then now dieting, getting ready for a photo shoot. So yeah, it's been a really good year. It's been a challenging year, but it's shown me that I can do probably more than I expect of myself sometimes.
I think sometimes challenges are the best things you can get in life, for me anyway. I think there's growth from challenge, you know.
Yeah.
In every way, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think I would get bored. I think I would get bored and like procrastinate on stuff, and I think that's when us as guys struggle with mental health, when we haven't got a challenge. You need something to like hunt, or something to sort of go after.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's a definite, and in society we haven't really got that now. I listened to something a while back, and it was talking about the need to make physical products for people to be able to, that's a necessity, and without going to break the fields, or you know, whatever it is we've done in you know, earlier days than now, with that loss, that people sort of do become lost in themselves.
I think for obviously working with pretty much exclusively guys now, a lot of what I see is guys will get almost like they will get set aside by their body. So if they're not happy in their body, that becomes pretty all-consuming. And then as soon as they get rid of that challenge, a lot of people will kind of sit back and enjoy themselves and relax, and then they see themselves revert back to old habits. I think when people get to that point where they've had a really good transformation, it's really important that they actually widen their view and chase after something else again, so they can keep progressing on. I always describe it to my lads like, if you put money in a bank account, yes, it stays at the same value, but relative to interest, it's actually less valuable. That's a little bit like your energy and like transformation. You've constantly got to be looking to like reinvest your time in something else, or you're going to kind of revert back to old habits and fall into bad habits. So that's something, a lot of what I teach to people is stuff that I actually have to sit back and say to myself, like, right, we've done that, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah, definitely. And then, I totally understand that. It's like, I totally get that. I don't know where I was going to go with the rest of that day. So what would you say your big goals are
think kind of probably following on from that quite nicely actually is from sort of my personal life and very close friends, a lot of like men's mental health creeps in, and you know, dealing with suicide and loss, and I think a lot of guys do struggle even though we've been told to speak more than we do. So I think giving guys a challenge, something to work on, being that outlet for them to like progress in life after whatever it is that they want to chase. So for me, inside my program, I want to build out a web of sort of guys that are supporting each other, getting supported by me, new challenges, lots of events going on in there. I want to bring some mental health experts in to sort of coach my guys. And ultimately, I think probably the longer term goal is doing all that to support me doing like challenges. I want to do some crazy shit for charity. I think that's my big driver at the minute. So yeah, I'm just kind of setting myself up with a stable base at the minute so that I can start to pursue that sort of stuff.
What would you in terms of the crazy shit? What's on your mind on that term?
So I had started running a lot, so maybe like marathon, triathlon. I seen a crazy guy, and it was really good, pulling a plane on a runway, like for distance. Just something that's like completely out there and mad. I've spoke with a few friends that are kind of in the fitness space, and you know, pairing up with people like that and just doing something that's a challenge, something to get prepared for. Again, that goal thing, just having something to set my sights on that is just time for me, not necessarily, not doing it for any other reason other than let's raise a bit of money for charity, let's challenge ourselves, and let's support guys on their sort of journey and getting people help that they need in that charity space. I think
that would be amazing.
Just fires me up.
Yeah, it's as you said before, it's that challenge. Sometimes that unobtainable challenge as well can be the best for the soul, because you've especially if you're determined and stubborn, you know what I mean? That
ties in nice.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of like education, nutrient wise, and you know, food wise, what have you got any?
Yeah, so obviously, gone down the general route of PT. I put a lot of weight in. I've been doing this nearly a decade now, so a lot of experience. I did Mac Nutrition, which is like one of, if not the only government recognised nutritionist course. I hope I haven't misquoted that. That was really, really useful. I took a lot from that, lots of sort of case study work, and that was probably what tied into. I was doing that course at the same time as that initial guy that I coached, and when he started seeing results, that was very sort of affirming for me. So I'd put a lot of weight into Mac Nutrition. That was really, really good. And then just spent a lot of time coaching people, understanding how people work differently. And again, coming back onto that mentor, seeking out people in my space that are way better than me, that I still spend my time doing and learning from them.
Yeah. So I suppose that sort of feeds back into the first or second question about how people get into it. Would you advise people that would want to do what you're doing or follow into your footsteps to go look at the Mac Nutrition course? Or
so yeah, if there's coaches, I'd 100% recommend that. It's something that I really, really value, and that allowed me to continue because I could understand reading sort of new research. I could take stuff from that. I could go in and constantly update myself. And I think one of the things as a coach that is nice is having the ability to say to someone, or being confident enough to say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, or I don't know, I'm going to work with you. So I've been recently doing a brain-based behaviour course called Built to Coach. So that's been sort of an addition on top of that. So making sure that, as I said at the beginning, sort of making sure that I understand the deeper stuff, as opposed to I struggle with snacking or I can't work out. It's the why after that. Like, why do you struggle with snacking? Are you so busy in your day that you don't get a chance for you, so you turn into snacks because it feels like a little 15-30 second break away from reality? Like, if people can get to the bottom of why they're doing stuff, I think it really helps us to break down, okay, well, what could we do instead of? what else could we look to do? How can we sort of break this cycle? Because for most people, they've yo-yo dieted for years. They've never really seen a result, or they have and they've gone backwards, which is sometimes worse because, you know, they've been there, they've tasted, they've had a taste of it, and then they've lost it, and that can feel worse sometimes than not being in shape ever. So I've digressed there, which is something I'm going to do on this podcast a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, I can't remember what the question was, but hopefully that answered it.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Okay.
People who were like,
Imagine being that one person in the rave that's just like, oh, he's staring at me.
There's a photo of a girl, that Euphoria, and yeah, it was her and this lad, and there were a couple of people in the front of this rave in Vienna, and it was huge. There was 15,000 people there, and her and a brother or whatever were at the front, and all night we were just like, fuck, and then we were vibing with each other, and a couple of years later we went back to Austria, and she's one of the headliner DJs.
Nice.
So it was like, she already remembered me, I already remembered her, and she's like, what? Okay, so you did, to be honest, there's
like you're performing a set to a single individual in your head, so you've not got to worry about everyone else.
Well, yeah, and no, I'll use the single individual or 10, 15 people to judge the
move around, yeah.
So then the crowd see me proper vibing going in, and it lifts the whole crowd, so it's less intimidating, but I'm not intimidated now, but back in the day where you get people like, oh, yo shit, you know, giving you like proper like.
Well, I absolutely love like stand-up comedy. So I listen to like a lot of interviews of stand-up comedians, and a lot of them talk about like they break their. So obviously they get ready for a single performance, don't they? Like a Netflix special or whatever. Yeah. And when they like start that set, so to speak, like they start building that, they'll start in smaller clubs and then they'll build up to like bigger clubs, and then they'll go to like smaller venues, like I don't know, I'm trying to think, but and then they've got like the peak event. Maybe you could look at like MCing like that, like I'm going to test it out on this smaller crowd and then I'm going to build up to like.
It's worse for me. I hate
smaller crowds
because then it's really like.
But you can really gauge what the feel for the music if it's a smaller crowd. Yeah. Like if it is shit, you're like, if the atmosphere is shit, it's like, right, I need to adjust something here because this isn't quite working.
No, it's different. When there's a smaller crowd, it's harder to get people to really relax.
Yeah. But if you can get them going, surely that's going to work at the. Like it's almost like that. Yeah. If I feel a bit of pain at the beginning, the ending will be better in the bigger venue, because you could go and play. I don't know. I'm not into music, but you could probably go and play almost anything if you're third at a rave and it's got a bit of a beat to it. Whereas if you're on a smaller venue and people are like really buzzing for that. Yeah. You're going to get a better response.
Yeah, definitely.
I presume in a bigger venue.
One of the hardest things for me is when it's not busy.
Yeah.
You know, when a venue's not that many people in there, I still don't like it. I still don't like it. Make you feel inadequate.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't like being watched in the sense of like, you want people to watch the music, not you.
No, I do like me being watched, but I just don't. It's like. It becomes you're the only point of interest then only when there's no one in there, and the vibe is all that. It feels like when you're on the mic, the vibe's all down to me then, even if there isn't a vibe there and it's not my fault because I'm the lead in a way. Do you get what I mean? Of the music, then the less if it's boring, then it's down to me.
But surely that's what you want though, because if you can thrive in that, even though it's uncomfortable and you don't like it.
Yeah.
That's got to transfer when you've got a good atmosphere.
It does, and I've sort of learned how to still get it. I've sort of learned that by trial and error, do you know what I mean? But when I'd go do gigs back in the day and I didn't play well, I mean, don't talk to me for 2 weeks. I was just depressed because it was like the biggest humiliation in a way, do you get what I mean, that you could have. And sometimes it was because I just went in the zone that day or whatever it was, or you'd have people who were just funny in the crowd, and then it put me head in a bad space, and then I wouldn't be able to be my best.
But then my thinking on that is like, I always think about this when I do something shit, I'll always zone in on, this is like the stubbornness, I'll always zone in on it, and focus on like that was shit. I need to improve it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you always feel like stuff's good, you're just like, oh, that was good. I'll go and do whatever I'm going to do this week. Whereas if you do something shit, you obsess over it for a week, right?
It's the truth. Yeah.
And you're like I've got to get that better. So surely after 4 years of, obviously there's got to be improvements, but 4 years, not beating yourself up, but 4 years of like, I need to improve that. That wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you ask like the top 10 DJs in the world, I fucking guarantee you all of them have that similar sort of mentality.
Yeah.
Or 8 or 9 out of 10 of them will be like, that set wasn't good enough, this needs adjusting.
Yeah.
I bet there's very few of them that come off like a main stage and are like, that was fucking sick, I couldn't be any better than that. I bet you if you like asked them, they'd all be like, this needs adjusting to here, I noticed that the crowd didn't like that bit, this section was really good, we need to do more. Like, I think that's a good way to,
Yeah, you've got to be, especially, I think the DJ wise it's a little bit different, but again, DJs make mistakes. It could be the slightest thing that we wouldn't notice, but you can make mistakes, and it is the same. That's definitely what's made me improve.
That's where I put a lot of my improvement in life down to. All I'm going to say, when you rock that desk, this does that.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that then.
Right, should we dive back in while we're moving and grooving?
So,
are you ready, oh? Yeah.
So, what do you hate most about diet and exercise?
I think for me personally, like I've spent a lot of time almost obsessing over it. So like, I think it's important that I have it in my life and that it's a focus, but almost feel like my brain can't get away from it. So like, I wouldn't be able to go on a 2-week holiday and not think about like, I've got to get back to diet, or I've got to do some sort of training, or I've got to focus on it. So it can sometimes become a little bit obsessive. So for me, I think it's good to like check out from it a little bit. And this is what I kind of try and introduce my lads to, is more a sense of, rather than it being focused on 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, is more so, what's the 52-week total of the year? What is everything collectively? So I think probably for me personally, the thing that I enjoy least about diet, exercise, and like the whole collective is sometimes my brain won't let me like not think about it.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of character, I suppose. It's
yeah.
I get a similar thing with. I would back me up on this. I can't listen to music or see certain things without it
just being present in it. Yeah.
It's always about like.
Yeah. With it being my job as well, it's like I'm thinking about it then. I'm thinking about it when I go to the gym. I'm thinking about it when I'm eating. Yeah. So yeah, just taking time to decompress, and sometimes not necessarily just going to the gym, but just going and being present. Like just getting a gym session in and lifting what I want to lift. Not trying to be too strict with programs or diets. And obviously, there's times. I coach on push and pull seasons. So seasons where you are just pushing towards a goal, you're just really full on, kind of where I'm at the minute with like ticking all the boxes, training being good, but then also sort of pull seasons where you're just pulling from life, you're just enjoying yourself. It is what it is, and
just that's what a push to that. Explain the push and pull thing a little bit.
So push and pull is like, I'm trying to think of how best to break it down. There's going to be certain seasons of your life when you're getting ready for a holiday. You've got your wedding coming up. You've got a photo shoot coming up. You've got a diet. You're going to be in a season of pushing towards your goal. You're going to have to move certain things out of your way. But equally in life, there's going to be time periods where you're on holiday, where you're being present at a wedding or your wedding, where you're pulling from that experience, where you're enjoying it. And I think a life of too much pull becomes too intense, you don't enjoy yourself. A life of too much push becomes a life of push becomes too dull, you don't enjoy yourself, you're pushing towards goals too much, and a life of pull becomes too much enjoyment, you let yourself go. So I think it's about striking that balance of pushing in life, but also pulling from life and enjoying sort of reaping the rewards of
the rewards of the push, pretty much, Makes a lot of sense. I know it can be easy to fall into that pull. I think a lot of people nowadays live in the pull zone.
Just justifying enjoying myself too much in the sense of like, pulling what life has to give, and coming back onto what we spoke about there on challenge,
Yeah.
not having any challenge in their life, and then people, it's easy to, I've experienced like it's easy for me to get depressed or down because I've not got any challenge and I've not got anything to push towards, and I've almost justified to myself, oh, you deserve this, oh, you deserve that, and I think it's about striking that balance and learning that balance, and it takes a while for people to do that. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen by thinking it. It happens by actively thinking, like, do I need to push? Asking yourself questions. Could I be pushing harder? Do I need to push harder? Or do I genuinely need a rest, deserve a rest, and just need to enjoy it? Because we've got people on both ends of the spectrum, people that work really hard and don't enjoy themselves, and then people at the other end that enjoy far too much of life and get themselves in a position where they're not happy because they've not learned to push. Everything becomes a treat, and getting that cycle of, oh, I deserve a reward, oh, I deserve another reward, and
it's like it's sort of like, I suppose I can liken it to like consumerism in a way. It's sort of like consumerism programming, but within a different sense. You know what I mean? But
I think that summarises it well.
So, what was one thing do you think that stopped you in the past from being who you wanted to become, or?
I think probably what we came onto there, of that cycle of push for 5-6 days, then pull for 5-6 days, and you don't really go anywhere, you just kind of stay where you are. So I've never really gone, obviously being the skinny kid, getting into the gym, I spent quite a few years just being pretty stagnant in my progress in terms of where I was in work, where I was in the gym, where I was in personal life, because I would do things to improve and then I would spend too long enjoying it, and then I didn't really progress. So that's why I like to break it down into seasons of push and pull. Like, what can you push towards for the next 8 weeks, the next 10 weeks, and then what could you do for 2 weeks to sort of unwind, reset, and go again? And I think that's how I kind of approach my life now, like have seasons of really hard work. And a lot of people, like, I think generally, and from being in fitness, but in most things, a lot of people discourage you from it, like, oh, why are you doing that? Like, we had a bit of banter at Nando's, right, of like, I ordered a chicken wrap because I'm dieting, and it's like, oh, fish and a rice cake wanker, right? But I think generally people don't know what you're pushing towards, and a lot of people think that people overwork, over push. So as a society, I think we generally encourage more pulling. So we're like, oh, you should enjoy yourself more, you should relax more. Most people have got more push to give, they don't need more pull, generally. There is people out there that maybe will be listening to this that need to be told, take your foot off the gas and enjoy yourself a little bit. But I think there's probably more people that need to be told in a respectful way, in a nice way. You'd get to your goal a lot quicker if you really committed to the push and had a bit of a reward at the end of that period. So like, what would you do? So this is a question that I ask my lads a lot, is like, what would you need to do if you rate yourself currently as a 5 out of 10 in diet, let's use an example. What do you need to do to move from a 5 to a 6? And then when you get to that 6, let's define that. What would that look like? So I'd be eating healthier for 5 days of the week. I would drink more water. Okay, at the end of that milestone, when you get to that 6, then we can experience what we would call a pull period and actually enjoying that for a week or so. So what are you going to reward yourself when you get to that milestone? And that's a different way of setting goals, rather than by this date I'm going to have achieved this. Because sometimes it can become discouraging when people don't get there on time, as opposed to just having a loose time frame you want to achieve it by, and then rewarding yourself when you actually achieve the milestone.
It's like it's as you say, sometimes them unattainable goal. It's like the dieting thing, isn't it? When people, diet heavily and then they fall back off for 6 months and they're back worse than what they were.
So when you get to that, again, assessing, okay, what's the next step? What would that look like? I'm going to enjoy a little bit of a pull season now where I enjoy myself. What's the next push? What's the next 8 to 10 weeks? What would that look like? And what am I going to reward myself with when I get to the end of that? So people kind of have periods of their life where...
So just to come back on what you were saying then, so would your pull would part of your pull section be like a rice cake?
No, so part of the... Owen's shaking his head. No, part of the pull would... So it doesn't need to be food. When I talk, you're a bastard. When I talk... That's a great clip. When I talk about pull, I mean more so like it doesn't need to just be food. It can be a holiday or going and seeing a friend or taking a week off work and go. You're laughing your tits off now, aren't you? At that.
Sorry.
Brilliant. So yeah, pull can be whatever people see as a reward. For me, it might be just going snowboarding for a couple of days and chilling out and then getting back to the next stage.
A rice cake.
Not a rice cake. Definitely not a rice cake. No rice cake wankers here.
Moving on. Cakes.
Yeah. I might come back onto rice cakes. They are pretty good.
Yeah.
I tell you what is banging: chocolate chip rice cakes and caramel rice cakes. I'm showing it now, aren't I?
And like a Nando in a rice cake, and then
No.
coffee in a rice cake.
Savoury rice cakes aren't very good. Have you ever had a savoury rice cake?
Sweet rice cake.
Salt and vinegar rice cakes are not good.
I don't know. Not the one.
No. Caramel maybe.
The ones you used to get years ago, and you were in like a blue packet, salt and vinegar ones.
Yeah, no, they're rotten. No.
How is it? Do you find it hard to have conversations with family members that need to make the health a priority?
Aside, because this is like a difficult one, there's not anything that you can say to a family member to make them do something. It depends on the family member. Well, it doesn't really depend. Like friends, children, parents, grandparents, partner. I think that as people, we're pretty childlike, all of us, right? And children learn from seeing, not being told. You tell a kid to do something, they're not going to listen, are they? Right? I'm very fortunate to be the uncle that teaches the kids to wipe their nose on the sleeve, and they watch from learning, right? They don't learn from telling them, they learn from seeing. And I think adults are very similar. Like, you've got to be, if you have got a partner if you're both in bad shape and you want to help your partner get into good shape, if you want your kids to learn good habits, if you want your parents to start being intrigued by fitness, you can only interject by doing. And then there's maybe the intervention of like inviting people. So like, I go to this fitness class, do you want to come along and try it? So I think that most people that would ask that question, like, how do I help my partner to get into shape? How do I help my children to have a healthier outlook on food as they grow up? The answer is by being a leader for them, being someone that is an example. That doesn't mean rice cakes every day.
Sure?
It means I'm positive. Yeah, we definitely don't want to encourage that, but you're a great interviewer for me. More of... I've lost my train of thought now. I'm thinking about rice cakes. Salivating on a diet over salt and vinegar rice cakes. I think, being more of a leader, giving them direction, showing them how it's done, because as the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But if you lead the horse to water, it's got a much better chance of drinking than if it's not got a leader and it doesn't know where the fucking water is. So if you can lay that out for the people that you love, I think that's probably the best advice I can give. If there is another answer out there, I ain't sure about it. That's, from what I've seen, been the best way. A lot of couples that I've coached in the past have got a really good result together because they've got someone to see that is also doing it. They can encourage each other. I think a lot of partnerships can be quite detrimental to each other. Like, shall we get Chinese? Yeah, I'll get Chinese. As opposed to, shall we go to the gym together? I don't really feel like it today. Well, I do, so I'm going to pick you up. And then next week, when I don't feel like going, you encourage me. So I think just setting out to prioritise yourself, focus on making you the best version of you, and then if someone does ask for help, that's when you can sort of guide them. But I don't believe in all this fat shaming stuff. I don't believe in, like, tell someone that you love that they're fat. You can do it in a nice way, like, look, I'm concerned about your health, but you need to be a leader. You can't be in bad shape saying to the people you love, you need to change what you're doing when you're doing the same as them. So I think the best way to go about it and the best way to cause them to think about it is by setting a great example.
Monkey see, monkey do. sort of thing
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
isn't it?
All these
Lead
old
by
sayings are
example.
basically the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
What I'd also say, I mean, I'm not in your industry, but I think a rice cake cookery book, maybe.
We're gonna have to get some rice cake too. Maybe we could call this podcast something around rice cakes.
Could we maybe get some sponsorship, rice cake
Yeah, we
sponsors?
could. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fish and a rice cake guy is doing really well for himself. He's got his own rice cake brand.
Really?
Mm.
Let's get him on.
Yeah, get him on as a. If you listen to this fish and a rice cake guy, we'd love to have you on.
Sorry. I'm going to phone him. So what would you say your long-term goal is?
Okay, like personally in my own fitness.
Yeah, personal fitness.
I am very, very, very fortunate, and this is probably something that I talk about really in socials, so people won't know this. I'm very fortunate to have an 82-year-old granddad that is in great shape, like is still very active, is in really good health, and he was like my main male role model growing up, and still sort of is. Like, I want to be able to still do the stuff that he's doing at 82. I still want to be able to spend time with kids, grandkids.
Yeah.
I think lifelong fitness is really important to me, and kind of prioritising that. But equally, always, I don't ever want to turn up to his house and him have a job for me that I'm like, I'm not strong enough or I'm not fit enough to be able to do that. So I think being like him and also being able to support him and other members of my family as they sort of get older, I want to always be coming back onto that. I always want to lead from the front, and I think that's why coaching attracts me in, because I don't want to be a leader, but I just kind of naturally fall into the habits of kind of wanting to help people. And
Yeah.
I think that comes back onto the question you asked about 18-year-old me. I obviously had my granddad, but he wasn't into fitness, and I kind of had to find my own mentors, and they've been really, really, really useful in my journey in getting there. So I hope that at some point I get to, or have had chance to be, a bit of a role model to someone else. So I think that's why I continue to chase it.
Yeah. I think it's, for me, to answer the question that hasn't been asked, but for me, I've sort of become the role model that I didn't have. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've become that like person in myself. That
Yeah. I think again, growing up without a dad, obviously, not by his fault, like lost him early. I think having male role models was like something that I was kind of short of. Like, I did have my granddad, but he obviously wasn't at home, and sort of learning to be a man and like figuring it out yourself.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's people that connect with that have like grown up without it and are sort of stepping into the sort of man that they want to be.
Yeah.
I think that's why I come into the men's mental health as well. And I just want to be able to say I did my best for everyone that was around me, and I give people the opportunity to have someone that they could be like, oh, okay, I can try doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a lot of people, especially you said with the mental health from men and men talking about their experiences. It's hard to sometimes get that across, and also to grow into the man, or to, I suppose, see the man that you're going to become, or
I think
know
that
where to go with that.
Yeah, I think the problem with men's mental health is we are encouraged to talk, and we talk more than ever. What happens when you finish talking?
Yeah.
You've got to go and do something about it, right? You've got to go and that's not me saying that you can't have bad weeks or you can't have down. You're going to feel it. Everyone's going to feel it at some point. But like, what happens after the talking? Like, you need to go and set yourself something to look forward to. Like, life's not going to be fun unless you've got something to chase, and for a lot of people, and I think I see more of this because of where I'm at, it might be that their body and their health is like making them feel down. And I'm not saying that fixing that's going to solve all of their problems. It definitely isn't. But it then gives them, they can clear that from the list, they can clear that from their mind, and they can go, right, what else is making me unhappy? What else can I focus on? And maybe it is their mental health, and they need to go and speak to someone, or maybe it is that they're not quite happy in their relationship, and the reason that they've stayed in that is because they're also unhappy in the body. And I think that, and I know that, I don't think that, I know that from the people I work with, a lot of them come to me, and when they actually lose the weight and when they start feeling more confident in the body and they can wear what they want, the mind's then free to actually deal with, again, what the deeper issue is, what they're actually fucking struggling with. So that takes a lot of people from the talking stage to the doing, improving. Then they can talk about the next problem, and then they can move again into sort of fixing whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose then, I mean, not the only the questions that I was going to put to you, but what I suppose one to follow on from is, what would you suggest to people that are struggling with the mental health? Is the, you know, the
Yeah.
something that you do
I
to...
thought there was another rice cake question coming then. I thought that
would
we
you go
keep
for
it
a rice
serious.
cake, or
No,
would
no,
you
definitely don't go for a
would you
rice
go for
cake.
Twix?
No, it's a hard one, that. I think coming back onto the actual question, because that is a serious topic, people should go and see, like, I've been to counsellors and therapists, and it massively helps, like, talking about that. I'm not a professional, so essentially my answer to that question is, don't fucking ask me, because it's not my thing. My advice from experience is, go and see someone, go and speak to someone, seek professional help, and then they can sort of point you in the right direction because they're qualified to do it. Yeah. What I'm saying is, sometimes people need to start after they've spoke, decluttering their desk, so to speak, so that they can actually see what the real problems are. Yeah. And for a lot of people, like, your health and fitness, I know we spoke about health and fitness for, I don't know how long we've been speaking about it. It should be like 5% of your thought. It shouldn't be any more than that, really. People that are in good shape generally probably only think about their food when they're prepping the food, and they only think about their exercise when they're exercising. Yeah. The rest of their time, because they're not worried about it, they're not thinking about, oh, how do I look in this top? I need to pull my top down. I don't want to go on holiday and like walk around with my top off. Once they've cleared that desk and they aren't thinking about that all the time, frees up the mind to actually think about what it is that they're struggling with. Yeah. So I think the two go hand in hand. They're like brother and sisters, like physical health and mental health. If you can fix your physical health and get a solution with that, it frees your mind up to focus on the mental. Yeah, definitely. And it fuels the mind with the ingredients the mind needs to function at its best as well. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so this is dull, boring, Ryan. There's a study on people that exercised for an hour aerobically before work, and they saw a massive increase in productivity throughout the day. So stuff like that, if you are exercising at the right time, it can actually lead you to be more productive. Yeah. It can lead, it's releasing happy hormones. You're going to get a buzz. There's lots of mental benefits to exercise as well, but there's so much we could talk about on that. Probably sort of time to cut it there before we have any more rice cake questions. Yeah. We will leave you with that. Fish and a rice cake. What's your favourite rice cake? Do you like rice cakes? Yeah. You are a yes or a no? I'm a no. What are you, Owen? Yes or a no to rice cakes? Yes. No ones. So I'm going to say the same, so that's 2-1 vote. Leave the links. Leave your comments. We'll put a poll up on Instagram with this and we'll see what people think. Yeah. Because currently you're outnumbered, so maybe you need some people to join the Fuck Rice Cake gang. Yeah, we'll get you that on a t-shirt and we'll have caramel rice cakes on ours. And we called you Ryan Rice Cake. If that is a nickname that sticks, I'm going to fucking hate you for a very long time. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully Curtis has entertained you and I've not bored you. And we will hopefully be having a very interesting guest on the next episode. I've got a few people in mind. One's got a sort of Huddersfield accent, so if between me with a Stokey accent, Curtis with his Scouse accent, and my friend from Huddersfield with his Yorkshire accent, hopefully you can understand us on that one. And if it's not him, he will be coming on at some point. So we will catch you guys soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll let you do the outro, Curtis. Thank you. Banging. It's a rice cake. Fishing it.